if they expect me to walk away from Luton with nothing, I'll make very sure there's nothing to walk away from.
Hello and welcome back to the Oak Road Hatter podcast. I'm Billy Molly and today I'm joined by Finley Cannon as we look ahead to what is game week 17, Bournemouth away. We've just had a manic week, Finn, where we've gone toe-to-toe with Manchester City and Arsenal. And, you'd think that going to Bournemouth might be a drop down in terms of intensity, in terms of difficulty of match. But when you see the corner they've turned, it's going to be another massive, massive test. And I think that's probably the motto of the Premier League.
Yeah, it's obviously you'd expect this week to be a bit calmer. There's less games. It's much more relaxed almost this week. But yeah, then you go into a team that's just beaten Man United 3-0 or on a really good run themselves. So you just look forward and you just think, oh, where are the next points coming? But it's certainly an opportunity.
Yeah, it's a strange position to be in because obviously for Luton, performances have been very good. We can take a lot of spirit, a lot of confidence from what we put out against Man City and Arsenal. But yeah, we look at Bournemouth as a very much informed team. So a squad that may have started to finally find their feet after what was a difficult start and a few new faces to add in. Of course, a new manager as well. We'll get into all of that. Before we do the full preview, just cool to like this video on YouTube and share. Also subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what you're seeing. We'll also mention as well, we've got a couple of Tenable lists coming today. Finn will be trying his hand at following sort of the success of the last one. It's backed by popular demand. Really throwing Finn under the bus because I just told him about it a few minutes ago. So yeah, sorry Finn, but we move on. So yeah, Bournemouth away, Finn. It's another one down by the coast. You think of the first couple of away games, Chelsea and Brighton, two southern ones, and Fulham as well. We've gone up north for a fair few away games when you think of the last few ones. But back with Bournemouth, it's, as we mentioned, 13 points from 5 games. That's fantastic for any Premier League team, let alone a team that have been mentioned in association with the relegation places. As we mentioned, that they've really, really turned a corner.
Yeah, they're one of the top teams in terms of the current form. If you look at the table based on form, they're right up there competing with some of the biggest teams in the league. So it's certainly not a team to be sneered at as well. Iraola's got them playing really good football. It's taken some time for them to get going under him, but they look incredibly dangerous now, and it's going to be a massive test for Luton. And no matter what the team Rob Edwards puts out, they'll know they're in for a test against Bournemouth. It's an interesting place to go. It's not somewhere you expect a hostile atmosphere, but you know you're in for a game against that side.
As we mentioned, it was a struggling start, 13 points from 5 games, and now they sit comfortably 14th, 19 points from their first 16 games. Comfortable gap from the relegation places, and I guess with it being, I think, their second season back in the top flight, what do you think the ambition would be? Do you think they will have their sights set on, even the top half, looking at how things have panned out so far, or do you think it's another season of just ensuring, they survive and with Iraola coming in for his first season? Is it about him settling down and next season will be where they really want to progress, or do you think it's a little bit earlier?
I guess because it's only the second season back in the Premier League. Obviously, they were up there before for a few years, competing, getting in and amongst it under Eddie Howe. But now they're back up. It's a new manager. They're probably looking to consolidate first of all, make sure they're still in the Premier League next season, and then I imagine they're looking to really push on from there and seeing what they can do and cause a few upsets in the Premier League, more so next year than this year. But they're already causing some problems for a lot of big clubs, as we mentioned before. And they've got some really good players in that team that can cause problems for anyone they come up against. Look up front, they've got Dominic Solanke, who can score in any game, give him a chance, and he's likely to put the ball in the back of the net. And then in midfield, they've got so many options, both in central midfield and in wide areas. So they are a really dangerous team, and I imagine they've got big ambitions for the next few seasons. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking they definitely just want to consolidate this season, make sure they're still in the Premier League, and maybe just move on from that in the seasons to come.
Let's talk about their managerial situation, because we've alluded to the fact that Iraola's a new manager in the Premier League. There was a few eyebrows raised when Bill Foley made the decision to part company with Gary O'Neill, who in his own right was a success at Bournemouth, keeping them up last season when many had doubts about whether they'll still be a Premier League club. Brought in Iraola from Real Vallecano, had a really, really strong reputation of playing good football. It was a massive, massive call, given, O'Neill probably earned the right to continue. But I guess it shows bravery, it shows boldness, it shows direction from the hierarchy at Bournemouth. What did you make of it at the time? And can we finally say it's paying dividends?
So when they made the decision to sack Gary O'Neill, or however it went down at Bournemouth, it was certainly one that raised a lot of eyebrows, and I, for one, agreed with that. I thought he did a brilliant job keeping them up, as you mentioned, when a lot of people expected them to go down. And I really did think he was going to be given a second chance to move on with what he was doing and carry on working with the team. But I guess they saw the opportunity to bring in someone like Iraola, who has worked under or played under Marcelo Bielsa in that Atletico Bilbao team years ago, and they clearly see an idea that he's got and an ideology of how he wants to play, and that's really what they're looking to do. So, whilst I maybe disagreed with the decision at the time on their side of things to get rid of Gary O'Neill, you can see it's really worked out for them now. It's taken a lot of time for them to get going, but now they seem to be really clicking and playing really exciting football. And then you look at Gary O'Neill as well, and he's at Wolves, and he's doing well at Wolves as well, despite the contentious decisions he's been up against in that role. I think it's worked out well for both sides, I think, in the end. But yeah, at Bournemouth, I think Iraola's got something really good going on there. So it's going to be a test.
And I think what's impressed me so far is their ability to do different things within the games. They're happy to defend low block and suck up pressure and hit on the counter attack. And I think that can be evidence. Obviously, didn't watch the full game, but I think watching highlights against United, they were really effective on the counter attack. I think they only had 30% possession as well, so really made good use of the rare chances they did have to break forward. 4-2-3-1 seems to be the formation that Iraola's settled on, and he's doing the most positive work for him at the moment. I think they did try and play with 5 at the back against Man City and were hit for 6. So yeah, 4-2-3-1 is what they're settled on at the moment. And just looking at some of their key threats, we mentioned Dominic Solanke, a player we know well from our time in the Championship, a natural goal scorer, somebody that didn't really work out for him at Liverpool, but he's found a home at Bournemouth, and he's proven to be a really, I wouldn't say top Premier League striker, but he's certainly in that sort of second bracket. Tavernier and Semenyo as well, 2 other players we know from our Championship days, and really creative talents, 2 players that I didn't really expect to perform as well in the Premier League as they have done. So credit to them, credit to Iraola and his predecessor for getting the most out of them. Where else do you see them being a threat? you sort of look at the couple of players we know from our Championship days, and it's quite easy to say those. But is there anybody else that's impressed you in a Bournemouth shirt from an attacking or defensive standpoint?
I think there's a couple of players in there that look really good and like they could play potentially at a higher level. Philip Billings got to have a mention. He's an absolute monster in that midfield, and he causes problems anywhere he plays on, whether that's defensively or going forward. He's such a big unit, so he's going to cause problems in the box, and our defence are going to really have to be on it to contend with him. And then also at the back, they brought in Senesi from the Dutch league, and it took him a bit of time to settle, but now he's looking really composed. He's looking like a really solid part of that defence, which the defence, when you look at it, is a bit of initially it looks like a bit of a mismatch of players where they've got players that were there before and players they've brought in later on, but they look to have really settled now. With Neto behind them in goal, he seems like a real leader. He's played for clubs like Valencia as well, so he's got some big pedigree as well, and he provides that base to go forward with.
Yeah, as you say, I think that can probably be said about the whole team when you say it's a bit of a, I guess, mix and match in terms of there's experience in the squad, there's youth, there's creativity, there's, they can go direct. I think that's a really important thing in the Premier League, especially a club like Bournemouth, where there are games where you're expected to, sit back and suck up a load of pressure like they had to, well, not necessarily pressure against Manchester United, but where they're naturally going to see less of the ball. You play against Man City, you play against Arsenal like we did, and that's the general expectation that you're not going to see much of the ball. But there are games like they'll probably be viewing this one where they're going to see more of the ball. It's where the more creative players, your Taverniers, your Semenyo's, are going to probably become more effective and I guess more of a burden on them to create and carve open the Luton defence. So they've got abundance of talent in that squad, but they're also real physical monsters in there. You mentioned Billen. They had Lerma, didn't they? Before they got Lewis Cook as well. I think is another person that really sums up the fact that they've got real variety in midfield options. I think they're a team that can play in different ways, and I think that's how you best approach the Premier League. And I think they're seeing the full benefits of that.
And a player that's really thriving at the moment, by the looks of it, is Ryan Christie. He went a bit under the radar when he initially joined, but he seems to be very, very popular with Bournemouth fans and pundits alike at the moment. He's been brilliant in their last few games. I think he's been playing slightly deeper in the team rather than out wide. I think they've dropped him more central, and he seems to be making them tick a bit as well, which is, I guess, real positive for them.
100%. And just looking at a couple of key individuals that have been missing, I think they'll be missing for the game as well. I'm not entirely sure, but Max Aarons, of course, he's got his Luton connections. A player that's always, Luton fans always keep an eye on, given of course his Luton connections. It seems that he had a real positive start to the season, and if he is missing still, then I'd say it's a blow. But they've also got Adam Smith, who provides as reliable of a service as anyone, and then Alex Scott, who was wanted by multiple clubs for a fair few years after excellent rise at Bristol City. Two players that are expected to be missing the game. Not entirely sure how true that will be, but I guess Finn, that's credit to Iriola that two important individuals are missing, and he's still managing to get a fine tune out of his team.
Yeah, you've got to give credit to the manager for that. They've got some. You've mentioned the two there that are missing. They've also brought in players like Tyler Adams, I don't think he's played for them yet. So they're really making that team work with the options they've got, and they've got a real wide variety of attackers that they can pick from as well. Whether they want to go direct with someone like Kiefer Moore or play it a bit more interlinked with the likes of Lewis Sinisterra or Justin Kluivert. So there's a real variety of names in there that he can bring in. And he's really made the most of what he's got in front of him.
And then let's talk Luton Town. That's why most of the people watching and listening are here. We, like Bournemouth, are a team with confidence at the moment. Sounds strange after 2 defeats, but I think when you take into account performance and the strength of opposition, we have to be impressed and confident with what we've seen in recent weeks. Of course, Bournemouth, as we've mentioned, a tough test. How do you see Rob Edwards approaching this one? Because as a sort of the 2 last games, we've had to be patient in times, but we've also chosen the perfect times to press and cause problems. Do you think that's a similar plan? Do you think we're going to concede a lot of possession to try and play this counter-attacking way? Or do you think we'll be more dominant and effective with the ball at our feet?
I'd like to think we'll have a bit more of the ball than we've had against Arsenal and Man City. We've certainly not had an abundance of the play to take advantage of. But against a team like Bournemouth, you've really got to make the most of the ball. And once you get it, you need to do something with it. And so someone like Ross Barkley was going to be really important to that, creating chances, often starting in a deeper area as well. Lokonga's likely to come in, I imagine, with Nakamba out. And he can pass the ball around. He's got a good range of passing. He's been at Arsenal, so he knows what he's doing. So whilst we haven't had much of the ball against the likes of Arsenal or Man City, I think we will have more against Bournemouth, and we really need to make the most of that and not be wasteful in possession as well. I think it's important that if we are dominating the ball at any point, we need to get that goal and have something to really defend as well. So be a goal ahead or maybe 2 goals ahead if we can do that. Because if we're constantly trying to push at them and they're sitting behind the ball, we may struggle to break them down a bit more. Whereas we've been playing against teams that are a bit more open because they're trying to come at you with numbers. But Bournemouth will be organised and they'll be ready to defend. So we really need to make the most of when we have got the ball.
Yeah, and I think when people make the assumption that you're playing against Bournemouth, it's a step down in quality from Arsenal and Man City, naturally means Luton can go out and win this comfortably. I never get that argument because this game presents a completely different challenge in terms of how the mindset is. I think when you go into those Arsenal and Man City games, it's like a David and Goliath kind of mindset that you go in with. But I think for Luton to survive this Premier League season, we know that it's about games like this and getting points out of games like this, and effectively playing a different way to those games that we just mentioned about. I'm just going to touch on formation because we've flirted with 4-2-3-1 a few times this season, and the 5 at the back, the 5-2-3 seems to be the favoured one so far. Do you think there's potential for us to match them up in a 4-2-3-1? I know that would have been much easier to do if we had Nakamba available, Nakamba, Lokonga and Barkley making up that midfield 3. But could Pelly come back in alongside Lokonga, allowing Barkley that little bit forward? Would you think that sort of 5-2-3 we're building into it and is part of our identity now?
I mean, I think we've looked very solid with that back 5. We've not kept clean sheets yet, but we're giving that defensive base and helping out Kaminsky when he needs it, having that extra man in defence. But I guess it does take away a man going forward when you've got an extra man in defence and lost someone in midfield. We have been overrun in midfield slightly against the teams that have an extra man. So I think going to a 4 at the back with an extra man in midfield does give us that extra person to play as well and give us another option. But we have to look at the defence first and foremost. Obviously, it's defence that wins your games, really. And can we defend with a back 4 successfully against teams? Because Bournemouth aren't going to be an easy team to beat or to defend against. They've got really good attackers, as we've previously mentioned. So it's whether Rob Edwards is confident enough in his defence to start a back 4 or whether he decides to stick with a back 5, do what they know and do what they've been doing all season. So whilst I would like to see them try a back 4 at some point, I'm not sure when that will be. And it might be worth waiting for Nakamba to come back so we can have that 2-man pivot in midfield with Nakamba and Lokonga.
I'm going to put you on the spot now, Finn, with a score prediction for Saturday's game at Bournemouth.
So I'm going to predict a 1-0 Luton win.
I like the positivity. I'm gonna remain positive, and it's probably more a reflection on Luton and how confident we can be following recent performances. I'm going to go 2-1. I think Yeah, I think Adebayo again is going to get on the score sheet. He's been really, really impressive since coming in and taking that starting position. I think he's very much a confidence player as well. I think when he's thriving in confidence, he can cause problems for absolutely anyone, as sort of evidenced on Sunday against Ruben Diaz. Not only did he win that towering header, but I think he turned him round a few times more than most can do to Ruben Diaz. So yeah, I think Adebayo to get on the score sheet again. And I think it's about time we saw Townsend score long range effort. So that's my two scorer predictions as well as my score prediction. When we come back, we are going to do the LTFC Tenable. We are back with the second part of today's episode, and now, Finn, it's time for LTFC Tenable. If you don't know how this works, we've got two categories today. We're starting with most minutes in this Premier League season from a Luton perspective. So I'm after the 10 players with the most minutes in a Luton shirt in Premier League action. Let's have your number one, Finn.
So number one is going to be Kaminsky.
Yes, he's played every single minute so far, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, number one, Thomas Kaminsky.
Then Colton Morris.
Colton Morris is number two. That's a nice, healthy start.
Alfie Doughty.
Doughty is number five with 1,064 minutes.
We've rotated a bit. So is Ted and Mengi in there?
Mengi is number nine. Yeah, so he just about makes the list with 861 minutes.
Nakamba.
Nakamba is number four with 1,133. So that is 1, 2, 4, 5, and 9.
Ogbene.
Ogbene is there. That number 7 with 938 minutes.
That's a bit of a gamble because he's missed a game or so. But Lockyer.
Lockyer is number 3. So 1,172 minutes. And just to go through who you've got so far. So you've got the top 3 of Kaminsky, Morris, Lockyer. You've got 4 as well, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're after 6, 8, and 10.
Is Pelly in there?
Pelly doesn't make the list, unfortunately. That is one life.
Ross Barkley.
Ross Barkley makes the list, number 10 with 805 minutes.
Who else is in there? Who have we had a lot of this season?
I'll tell you why it's difficult. It's difficult because there are a lot of players around the 800 minute mark that haven't made it. So yeah,
There's those
it does
few
get
we've
quite
seen.
tight.
There's a few we've seen a fair bit of that aren't always consistently in there. Who is it? Who could it be? Is Chong's not in there? Is Chong in there?
Chong's not in there. No, he's one of those that sort of just misses out. Yeah, he wasn't too far off that 800 minute mark with Ross Barkley 805. So yeah, we're still looking for 6 and 10. 6 and 8, sorry. 6 has accumulated 961 minutes, and 8 has accumulated 921. So it's not too much variation.
Oh, who could it be? Who is it? It's a bit of a stab in the dark, but is Kabore in there?
Kabore that is your number 6 with 961 minutes.
Is
So
the final one Adebayo?
it's not. No, incredibly, Adebayo is only on 550 odd minutes this season, and
I guess
he's
he
our
missed a
top goal
few.
scorer with 4. So yeah, fair play Adebayo for that ratio.
Who is the last? Can you narrow it down to an area of the pitch?
I can. It's a defender.
Is it Amari Bell?
It is Amari Bell, yeah. I think, Saturday's game has taken him into that list. Amari Bell with 921 minutes. So just to go through that again, that is Kaminsky, number one, with 1,440 minutes. Morris with 1,196. Closely followed by Tom Lockyer, 1,172. Nakamba, 1,133. Doughty, 1,064. Kabore, 961. Ogbene, 938. Bell, 921. Mengi, 861. And Barkley, 805. That is what I'll consider as the easier list of today, Finn. We move on to the second one. And for the second one, I want the last 10 league victories that we've won by 2+ goals. So 2-0, 3-1, 4-2, they all count. And this will give you a hint. I'll include playoff games.
It's included in the playoff games. Okay, so first it's Sunderland.
Sunderland, that's number one. So in terms of the numbering of this, the most recent is first, and it just goes descending. So Sunderland 2-0 at home. That is number one. Last time we won by 2 or more goals.
Is 2 Rotherham?
2 is Rotherham. 2-0 away. I believe Cooley Woodrow scored, didn't he, on that day?
If I remember rightly, that was a good away day. Watford's in there.
Watford is there. That's number 4. That was the 2-0 result that no Luton fan will forget anytime soon. That is for sure. So there is one in between that Rotherham away and Watford at home.
Oh, who is that one? We're not included in cup games, are we?
We're not, no.
Oh, QPR's in there then.
Which one do you want? Which QPR one do you want?
Away from home.
Away from home is number 6, the 3-0 win. So you've got 1, 2, 4, and 6.
Blackpool in there.
Blackpool is there. That's your number 3. 3-1 at home. Pelly scored 2 on that day. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 got so far. So 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 to go.
Oh, it's actually quite difficult. There's QPR in there a second time.
QPR are in there a second time, from the home win, 3-1. I think that was that the first time we beat QPR since return to the Championship.
I remember both of them. Scoring 3 against them twice was. I remember the away game more so because that was seeing them empty out that stadium so quick.
So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. I think that QPR home one, for a bit of reference, was either October or September, I think.
So there's some before then as well.
Yeah, so there's 3 before that that home victory against QPR.
I know there's one in against Wigan, but I don't know if it's cup or league.
Are you going for it?
I'm going to go for Wigan.
Yes, it was a league. Because we had them in the cup, didn't we, during the same time, and we had to go back up to their place, and it was all a bit confusing what game meant what. 2-0, I think that was when, was it Adebayo scored or Cornish scored that well-worked goal? Can't remember which way around it was. I think it was Adebayo.
If we're going back to before that first QPR game, then that's really early on last season then.
I'll give you a clue that all the remaining 3 were last season.
Yeah, so one of them in there is Hull City away from home. And was that when Lansbury whipped out the lawnmower celebration?
He did.
Season?
He brought out the lawnmower celebration, and I think that was the day as well where Hull City tried the tactic of sacking their manager the day of the game. one that we haven't seen too often in football, and one that sort of backfired, to be fair. So that was number 8. So the 2 that you've got to go are also before that whole game.
Before the whole game. We beat, it's Cardiff, we definitely beat Cardiff, but was it by, I can't remember if it was by 2 goals. I'm going to go with Cardiff.
Unfortunately, Cardiff isn't in there. Was that 2-1? I think they might have scored late on.
Oh, yeah, we definitely scored 2 that game.
Yeah, I think they scored a decent goal. Yeah, but yeah, they're not in it, so that's the first life gone. To try and help you narrow it down, there's a home one in there and there's an away one in there. Both results were 2-0.
We don't get that many 2-0s, obviously, otherwise it would have been. I would have got this a lot earlier. I've got a feeling one of them's a northern team. Who is it though? Got to narrow it down to the northern teams in the Championship, and it's not Hull. We've had them. It's the home one. Who did we beat 2-0 at home? It's not Blackburn, is it?
It was Blackburn. Yeah, Blackburn. So that's number 9. So the last one is an away victory that was before that Blackburn. In that Blackburn game, didn't Reece Burke score an absolute thunderbolt?
I think so. Was it Morris? Definitely scored that day.
Yeah, I can't really remember.
He must have scored. He scored so many last season. Who is the first one?
So the first one, if I remember correctly, I think it was our first win of the season, because obviously we had that difficult start, didn't win in our first 4.
First win of the season, Swansea.
It was Swansea, and I'll tell you, Morris definitely scored in that game. I think that was there.
I do remember. Yeah, I watched that one on iFollow.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think Morris came on. Did he come on and score, or I don't know? It's mad how much I can forget from.
It feels like ages ago now as well. That was.
Yeah. It completely does. So yeah, there you go. That is all 10. You completed both boards. Fair play to you. When I was putting that last one together, I was worried. I was thinking this could be quite difficult.
It's just finding any game where we've won by 2 goals was really just had to rack your brain to see how many we've.
Yeah, I genuinely thought we were going to have to go into like 2020, 21 season to find ones, because there wasn't too many. But yeah, that's why I included the playoff one. I think it was to try and make sure that everything was from last season. I wonder when the first time we win by two or more goals in the Premier League will be. Hopefully it's this weekend against Bournemouth. Well, that is all for today. Big thank you to you, Finn, for joining. A big thank you to everybody watching, listening back home. As mentioned at the top of the show, if you've liked this video, like it on YouTube, like it wherever you're watching or listening, share it, subscribe to our channel, and hopefully when we bring you next pod, we're talking about 3 extra points. It's goodbye from us.